When was the last time you saw a powerful woman truly apologize for her ambition? Like, seriously think about it. You probably don't remember, because women who know their worth don't shrink themselves anymore. Today, we're talking about why Sigma females stopped saying sorry for the things that actually make them powerful. Look at this, because it might change how you see yourself. In the best way, women have been taught to say sorry for everything. For speaking, for existing a little too boldly, for taking space they've already earned, and it chips away at confidence little by little. But Sigma females, they're done apologizing, and honestly, it's about time. Here's what I found. Most women say sorry out of habit, not guilt, not shame, just conditioning. From school to work, they've been told to stay soft, even when they're doing nothing wrong. And the workplace? Yeah, it gets even messier. A woman asserts herself and suddenly she's too much, so she apologizes to make other people comfortable. But here's why it matters. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your authority. You feel smaller. Others treat you smaller, and the cycle keeps going unless you break it. So here's how it works. These are 9 things powerful women never apologize for anymore. 1. Their ambition. Their ambition is the one thing a Sigma female refuses to shrink, and it's wild how much power sits in that quiet certainty she carries. Sigma females don't downplay their goals, because they know what it took to even admit those goals out loud in the first place. They've spent years being told to be humble, soft, polite and small, but deep down they always knew they were meant for something bigger. When a Sigma female wants more, she doesn't whisper about it, she doesn't hide it, she doesn't dress it up as something cute or reasonable just to make other people comfortable. She says it straight, even if the room feels tense for a second. And honestly, that confidence comes from experience, not ego. She's been underestimated enough to learn that ambition isn't something she owes anyone an apology for. People might call her bold, demanding, or too focused, but she knows those labels usually come from folks who gave up on themselves a long time ago. Sigma females have this ability to see the long game, and because of that, they stop seeking permission before they move. They don't wait for someone to say it's okay to go after a better job, a bigger paycheck, a deeper purpose, or a life that feels too expensive for the average person's imagination. They've already decided what they want, and once that decision is made, nothing really gets in their way. And if someone tries to guilt-trip them, they don't flinch. They've outgrown guilt. They've outgrown the fear of being misunderstood. And they've definitely outgrown the idea that wanting more makes them selfish. A Sigma female knows exactly why her ambition matters. It gives her direction when life gets noisy. It keeps her grounded when people project insecurities onto her. It carries her through moments when she feels alone, because not everyone can handle the intensity of someone who actually follows through. But she doesn't stop. She doesn't soften her vision to match someone else's comfort zone. She doesn't lighten her goals to keep a friendship easy, and she doesn't make herself sound smaller just to sound likable. She's done performing. She's done asking. She's done apologizing for dreaming on a level that makes average people uncomfortable. And the best part? She goes for what she wants without blinking because she finally trusts herself. She trusts her instincts, her mind, her growth, and her path. She knows her ambition isn't random. It's built from everything she's survived, learned, questioned, and rebuilt. So when a Sigma female stands up and says what she wants, she means it. She's not hoping someone will approve it. She's declaring it because she already sees where she's going, and the world can either keep up or step aside, but she's not slowing down anymore, not for opinions, not for noise, not for anyone. 2. Their boundaries. Their boundaries are the quiet armor a Sigma female never removes, and she guards them with a level of calm that leaves people stunned because she no longer feels guilty for protecting her energy, her time, or her peace. If something drains her, a Sigma female shuts it down without overthinking it, without spiraling, and definitely without offering a long explanation meant to soothe someone else's feelings, because she finally understands that the moment she starts ignoring her own limits, everything in her life begins to fall apart piece by piece. She's been through enough situations where she poured into people who only took and never returned, and she remembers exactly how tired she felt when she kept saying yes to keep the peace. That memory alone is enough to remind her why boundaries matter, and when she steps back or cuts something off, she doesn't apologize because she knows she didn't do anything wrong. She's not being rude, she's not being cold, she's being honest. A Sigma female values clarity more than approval, so when she's done, she's done. That's why people sometimes call her distant. But what they don't realize is that she simply refuses to keep giving chances to situations that drain her spirit. She has learned that her mental space is sacred, and if someone keeps crossing the line, she will simply remove herself instead of fighting to explain why it hurts. She doesn't make a scene, she doesn't raise her voice, she doesn't draft long emotional paragraphs trying to justify her boundary. She just steps back, and the silence she gives afterward is the real boundary. She knows that energy is expensive, and she doesn't spend it on people who ignore her needs. A Sigma female also knows that the word no is complete, powerful, and valid all by itself. She doesn't dress it up with softness, she doesn't hide it behind excuses. She says it simply and lets it stand. And sure, some people might call her selfish for that, but she knows that people who call women selfish for having boundaries are usually the ones who benefited the most when she had none. She's not here to make everyone comfortable. She's here to stay aligned with her own peace. When she feels a situation pulling her down, she chooses distance. When she senses manipulation, she cuts the cord. When she notices disrespect, she walks away before it becomes a pattern. And the core of it all is clarity. No, sorry, just clarity. She's not angry. She's just not available for anything that drains her anymore. And honestly, that's her strength. Boundaries don't make a Sigma female difficult. They make her whole. They keep her steady. They protect her from slipping back into the version of herself that gave everything without asking anything real in return. So she keeps her boundaries firm, sharp, and honest, knowing that the people meant for her will never be threatened by them, and the ones who walk away were never meant to stay anyway. Comment below if you've ever had to shut something down without feeling guilty. And hey, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next insight. All right, moving on. 3. Their silence. Their silence is one of the strongest signals a Sigma female sends, and she uses it with intention because she knows not everything needs a speech, a reason, or a breakdown someone can analyze and twist. When she goes quiet, she isn't being dramatic or mysterious for attention. She's protecting her mind. She's choosing peace. She's stepping back from noise that overwhelms her, drains her, or feels emotionally heavy in a way that words can't fix. They don't explain why they need space because they've learned that most people don't actually listen when you try to explain your emotional limits. People hear what they want to hear, not what you're truly saying. And Sigma females are tired of wasting energy trying to translate themselves for people who don't understand depth. So instead of giving long explanations about burnout, overstimulation, or emotional fatigue, they just take the space they need without announcing it like an event. They don't feel the need to warn anyone, justify anything, or write paragraphs that soften their withdrawal. They simply choose silence because silence never lies. It gives them room to breathe, to think, to reset, to listen to their own thoughts without someone pulling at them. And honestly, that space saves them every time they've lived through moments where they kept talking just to keep the peace, moments where they explained themselves to people who didn't care, and moments where they stayed available even when their soul was exhausted. That version of them didn't last. It burned them out. It broke their trust in themselves. So now, when their spirit feels heavy, they don't wait for permission to step back. They step back instantly. And that quiet shift in energy is usually enough for people to notice. Some take it personally, thinking the silence is an insult, but it isn't. It's protection, it's healing, it's recalibration. A Sigma female understands that space doesn't mean anger. It doesn't mean disrespect. It means she needs to reconnect with herself before she can show up for anyone else. She knows her silence can feel intense to others because it's so firm, so steady, so intentional. But she doesn't apologize for it because she finally knows her needs matter, And in that silence, she gets clarity she can't access when she's surrounded by requests, emotions, or noise. She reflects, sorts her feelings, resets her boundaries, and rebuilds her strength. She lets her mind unclench. She lets her heart slow down. She lets her thoughts breathe. And when she returns, she comes back clearer, calmer, and more aligned with who she actually is. But if the space shows her that someone drains her consistently, she won't return at all. Her silence becomes distance. Her space becomes a decision. She listens to what the quiet reveals, and once she understands the truth of a situation, she acts on it without hesitation. That's why her silence is powerful. It's not absence, it's awareness. It's her way of taking control of her emotional world without needing anyone's permission or approval. 4. Their standards. Their standards are the one thing a Sigma female refuses to lower, and she treats them like a personal code she'll never break, because she learned the hard way what happens when she accepts less than she deserves. A Sigma female doesn't apologize for expecting respect, because she knows respect isn't something she should beg for or chase. It's the bare minimum. She has zero interest in entertaining people who only show up when it benefits them, or who switch their energy depending on their mood. She's done with inconsistency. She's done with mixed signals. She's done with half-present connections that drain more than they give. When she says she expects respect, she means honesty, truth, and basic human decency. She expects people to treat her with the same care she offers, and if they can't, she walks away without looking back. And she doesn't feel guilty about it because she understands that lowering her standards never made anyone stay. It only made her lose herself. A Sigma female also expects effort. Not grand gestures, not dramatic moments, just genuine consistency that aligns with someone's words. She's tired of hearing promises without follow-through. She listens to actions now. She's learned that real connections don't require begging. If someone wants to be in her life, they show it. She doesn't force anything. She doesn't push. She doesn't remind people how to treat her. She lets their behavior reveal who they are, and she adjusts accordingly. Some people call her demanding for that, but she knows that people who complain about effort are usually the ones who weren't planning to give any in the first place. A Sigma female expects consistency because she values stability. She's not here for roller coaster relationships or flaky friendships. If someone can't keep their energy steady, she won't rely on them. She expects people to mean what they say and act like they care, not only when it's convenient. And when that consistency isn't there, she doesn't argue, she doesn't fix, she doesn't chase. She moves on quietly because she knows inconsistency steals peace faster than anything else. She sets standards to protect her emotional world, and she's not embarrassed about it. She's not too much. She's not dramatic. She simply knows what kind of energy keeps her grounded. And the truth is, she's dealt with enough disappointment to understand that standards aren't walls meant to keep people out. They're filters meant to let the right people in. This is why she no longer apologizes for expecting respect, effort, or consistency. She knows that people who genuinely value her will meet those standards without feeling threatened. But the ones who fall away, they were never aligned with her in the first place. She doesn't break her own rules to keep temporary people comfortable. She stays rooted in what she knows she deserves, trusting that the peace she protects today becomes the life she builds tomorrow. 5. Their past. Their past is not something a Sigma female hides or buries, because she knows every chapter shaped the strength she carries today. She doesn't rewrite her story to make it look cleaner or softer for anyone else's comfort. Her past holds moments she's proud of and moments she had to grow from, and she respects both. They've lived, learned, and healed in their own quiet way, often without applause, guidance, or support. Sigma females tend to face their hardest seasons alone, not because they want to, but because they've always been the type who keeps moving even when they're hurting. They don't sit around waiting for someone to save them. They learned early that saving themselves was the only guarantee. And because of that, they've built a level of self-awareness most people can't handle. They know what shaped their fears, what triggered their growth, and what pushed them to evolve. They remember the nights they had to hold themselves together when everything felt heavy. They remember the choices they made that others didn't understand. They remember the failures that taught them humility and the wins that taught them confidence. They don't pretend their journey was perfect. They don't pretend they always knew what they were doing. They just honor the truth of it. They don't carry shame, and that's not because their past is perfect. It's because they finally realized shame never helped them grow. Shame only kept them tied to versions of themselves they no longer are. A Sigma female knows she's made choices out of survival, out of fear, out of hope, out of confusion, and out of love. And she doesn't owe the world an apology for not knowing everything back then. She only owes herself honesty. Now, she understands that healing doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. Healing means accepting what happened without letting it control her anymore. Most people judge a woman's past without understanding her journey. But a Sigma female stopped caring about that a long time ago. She knows people who gossip are usually running from their own truth. She knows people who try to use her past against her are showing their insecurity, not her reality. She knows her past is proof of resilience, not evidence of failure, and she doesn't let anyone convince her otherwise. What makes her even stronger is the way she turned pain into perspective. She learned to tell the difference between people who wanted to help and people who wanted to control. She learned that losing people is not the same as losing herself. She learned that every ending gave her a new beginning she never expected, and she learned that she didn't break, even in the moments she thought she did. So now, when someone tries to dig into her past, she doesn't panic, she doesn't shrink, she doesn't explain. She simply stands in who she is today. A Sigma female understands that her past is not a prison, it's a foundation. It taught her compassion, clarity, intuition, and self-trust. It showed her who deserved space in her life and who only pretended to care. It taught her how to rebuild from nothing without losing her soul. And most importantly, it taught her that she doesn't have to apologize for having a story that wasn't perfect. She's not defined by the girl she used to be. She's shaped by the woman she became after surviving everything that tried to break her. She walks forward with a confidence that comes from knowing she faced her past head-on, accepted it, and chose to grow anyway. And that choice makes her unstoppable in ways most people will never understand. Quick check-in. Can we just appreciate how freeing it is to stop carrying shame? If that hit you, drop a comment about one thing you've healed from. Like the video if you're vibing with this, and make sure you're subscribed because the next point is going to hit even harder. Let's keep going. 6. Their confidence. Their confidence is something a Sigma female refuses to hide anymore, and it shows in the way she walks, the way she speaks, the way she holds her space without asking for permission. She learned that shrinking herself never protected her from judgment. It only made her forget who she truly was. A Sigma female doesn't dim it because she spent too many years surrounded by people who felt threatened by any woman who knew her worth. She remembers the times she softened her strength just to avoid being called intimidating. She remembers pretending she wasn't proud of her own wins just to keep someone else comfortable. She remembers playing small so she wouldn't stand out too much. That version of her is gone. Now she carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone who survived her own doubts and outgrew every insecurity that used to hold her back. She doesn't shrink it because she knows shrinking serves no one. It doesn't save friendships. It doesn't save relationships. It doesn't make life easier. All it does is blur her identity until she doesn't recognize herself. A Sigma female realized that the people meant for her will never ask her to be less. They won't call her too much for being honest. They won't get jealous when she succeeds. They won't compete with her. They won't try to dim her light just so theirs looks brighter. And when she understood that, everything changed. She stopped apologizing for her talents. She stopped downplaying her intelligence. She stopped pretending she isn't ambitious. She stopped keeping quiet when she had something valuable to say. She stopped letting anyone convince her that confidence equals arrogance. She sees the difference now, and she lives it daily. She lets it shine, even if others feel insecure, because she knows their insecurity is not her responsibility. It's not her job to fix someone's ego. It's not her job to reassure people who feel threatened by a woman who stands tall. It's not her job to soften her glow for people who never learned how to handle brightness. A Sigma female walks into a room with the calm energy of someone who knows she brings value without needing to announce it. She doesn't show off. She doesn't brag. She doesn't need to. Her presence speaks for her. Her confidence is quiet, steady, grounded, and that's what makes it powerful. She earned this confidence by rebuilding herself in silence, by facing fears no one knew she had, by failing and getting back up when no one was watching, by learning how to trust her voice again. That process changed her. It shaped her. It made her stronger than anyone realizes. So now when someone tries to undermine her or question her worth, she doesn't argue. She just keeps moving. She knows her confidence isn't a weapon. It's a reflection of everything she overcame. And if someone feels insecure because she knows she deserves better, that's on them. She's done apologizing for taking up space in a world that benefits when powerful women stay quiet. A Sigma female isn't quiet anymore. She isn't shrinking anymore. She stands in her confidence fully, knowing her light was never meant to be hidden, and she'll keep shining whether anyone can handle it or not. 7. Their emotions. Their emotions are something Sigma females no longer hide or water down, because they finally understand that feeling deeply is not a weakness, but a sign that they're alive, aware, and human. For most of their lives, people told them to calm down, be less sensitive, stop overthinking, or just let it go, as if emotional depth was some flaw they needed to correct. But Sigma females feel things on a level that most people never admit to, and that depth gives them intuition, clarity, and strength that surface-level people can't even comprehend. If they feel something deeply, that's human, and they no longer apologize for having a heart that refuses to go numb just to please anyone. They don't force themselves to be cold. They don't pretend nothing bothers them. They don't fake indifference just to look strong. They learn that emotional honesty is real strength because it takes guts to admit when something hurts or when something matters, not something to excuse, because emotion isn't a crime or a character flaw. Sigma females stopped saying, "Sorry, I'm just emotional," because they realized there's nothing to be sorry for. They're allowed to be affected. They're allowed to care. They're allowed to react. They're allowed to express pain, joy, anger, fear, disappointment, excitement or vulnerability, without explaining why they feel that way. They no longer shrink themselves to match people who can't handle emotional depth or who label feelings as dramatic, simply because they don't have the courage to face their own. A Sigma female understands that her emotions tell her the truth before her mind catches up. They warn her when someone is draining her. They alert her when something feels off. They guide her toward the connections that feel right. They show her who she can trust and who she needs to walk away from. Her emotional depth is a compass, not a burden. She doesn't numb herself to appear cool or unbothered. She's past that stage. She's not ashamed of crying when something breaks her heart, or getting angry when she's disrespected, or expressing love when she feels it so strongly it scares her. She lives honestly, not quietly. People who misunderstand her emotions often assume she's complicated, but the truth is she's simply real. She doesn't hide behind emotional masks. She doesn't pretend to be detached. She doesn't shut off parts of herself to appear easy or predictable. She shows up fully. That's what makes her different. That's what makes her powerful. And when someone tries to shame her for feeling something, she no longer debates or defends herself. She just steps back, because she knows emotional depth isn't something everyone can handle. Sigma females don't apologize for being the type who loves intensely, protects fiercely, and feels everything with honesty. They refuse to shrink into a version of themselves that feels safer for others. Their emotions are not chaos, they're clarity, they're truth. They're proof that a Sigma female lives with her whole self, not the compressed version the world expects from her. Take a beat. If you've ever felt too much and been told to apologize for it, smash that like button, share your story in the comments so someone else feels less alone. And if you're not subscribed yet, Do it now. Next, we're diving into independence, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. 8. Their independence. A Sigma female's independence is something she will never apologize for, not because she's stubborn, but because she has spent years building it with grit, heartbreak, self-awareness, and a whole lot of nights where she had to choose herself when no one else did. She knows choosing her path sometimes looks lonely from the outside, but to her, that solitude is strength, clarity, and freedom rolled into one, and she refuses to shrink it just to make other people more comfortable. The thing about a Sigma female is she doesn't chase validation or wait for anyone to sign off on her decisions. She moves on her own timeline, at her own pace, and with her own rules, because that's the only way she's ever learned to survive without losing herself. People often misunderstand her independence and make it seem like she's being cold or distant. But she knows that anyone who truly respects her will understand that her choices aren't rejection, they're boundaries, protection, and self-respect in motion. A Sigma female has walked through too many situations where she had to rebuild herself from scratch to ever hand control of her life over to someone else again. She chooses her path based on what feels aligned with her soul, not what looks impressive, expected, or easy from the outside. If she wants a career change, she'll do it. If she wants to leave a draining relationship, she won't ask for permission. If she wants to pack her bags and start fresh somewhere new, she'll move like the decision was made months ago. Her independence isn't a phase, it's a lifestyle shaped by every lesson she had to learn the hard way. And here's the part most people never see. Even when the path she chooses feels heavy or lonely, she still walks it because she trusts herself more than she trusts comfort. She would rather be alone with peace than surrounded by people who don't get her, don't value her, or don't take her seriously. A Sigma female isn't afraid of solitude. She's afraid of losing her integrity. She isn't afraid of starting over. She's afraid of settling. She isn't afraid of standing alone. She's afraid of standing with the wrong people. That's why she never says sorry for choosing her path, because every decision she makes is rooted in survival, truth, and a long-term vision most people can't see yet. And the wild thing is, the world keeps telling her to soften, to bend, to compromise, but she knows that doing that would mean betraying herself, and that's one thing she will never do again. If someone wants to walk with her, they better match her energy, her purpose, and her respect, because she's not slowing down or dimming herself for anyone. She's done apologizing for being the architect of her own life. And even when people whisper that she is too intense or too independent for her own good, she just smiles to herself, because she knows that anyone who cannot handle her strength was never meant to be part of her journey in the first place, and she thrives. 9. Their success. Their success is something a Sigma female never apologizes for, and she owns every bit of it without hesitation, because she knows what it really took to get there. When they win, they own it, not because they want attention, not because they need validation, and not because they are trying to prove anyone wrong. They own it because it represents every decision they made, every late night, every early morning, every sacrifice, every doubt they had to push through, and every lesson that demanded patience and persistence. Sigma females understand that success doesn't come from luck. It doesn't come from coincidence. It doesn't come from someone handing it to them on a silver platter. It comes from showing up even when the outcome feels uncertain, from grinding when the world isn't watching, and from continuing even when it would be easier to quit. They don't downplay their achievements to make other people comfortable. They don't soften the story of how they got there to make it sound less intimidating or more relatable. They don't say, "I got lucky," just to fit into a world that wants to minimize female accomplishment. That would erase everything they fought to build. No "I got lucky" is ever part of the Sigma female vocabulary, because she knows that her wins are the direct result of hard work, dedication, and refusing to let obstacles stop her. Every promotion, every recognition, every milestone, every goal crossed represents countless hours of effort, emotional endurance, and mental discipline. And while some people might attribute her success to external factors, she sees the truth clearly. She made choices, she took risks, she learned from failure, and she executed her vision even when no one believed in it. That level of ownership is what separates Sigma females from the crowd. They don't wait for applause. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for someone to validate that their hard work was worthy. They know their worth because they've proven it to themselves over and over again. Just, "I worked for this," is how a Sigma female frames her accomplishments. It's simple, honest, and unapologetic. It acknowledges effort, discipline, and commitment without arrogance. It shows she respects the journey as much as the outcome. Every time she achieves something, she celebrates internally, knowing that success is fleeting if it isn't earned, and that humility doesn't mean hiding her achievements. She also understands that her wins inspire others silently, even if she doesn't announce it. People notice a Sigma female's quiet authority and drive, and the truth is, her success often opens doors for others without her needing to do a single extra thing. Owning success doesn't make a Sigma female arrogant or selfish. It makes her accountable and empowered. She knows her results are proof of her persistence, strategy, and clarity of purpose. And when she looks back at the journey, she doesn't see obstacles or doubts as reasons to apologize. She sees them as evidence that every victory she claims was truly earned. She celebrates, she grows, and she moves on to the next goal with the same unshakable focus, knowing that every win was hers to claim, and every outcome was a reflection of her hard work, her choices, and her relentless determination. Here's why it's important. I've seen women go from apologizing for breathing too loudly, for speaking up, for taking up space, to walking into rooms with quiet authority that commands attention without needing to yell, without needing to justify themselves, without needing to dim their light. One woman told me she stopped saying sorry for being busy after years of constantly trying to make everyone else comfortable, and suddenly people respected her time, asked before assuming her availability, and even started valuing her presence more in meetings and friendships alike. Another woman stopped apologizing for her ideas, which she had kept down for years because she feared stepping on toes or being called pushy, and within weeks she finally got credit for work she had been doing tirelessly without acknowledgement. Small changes, simple shifts in language and mindset, big impact on how the world receives you, big impact on how you see yourself. And when a Sigma female stops apologizing, she doesn't become colder or distant. She doesn't shut people out. She doesn't lose empathy or compassion. What happens instead is that she becomes clearer in her intentions, sharper in her decisions, stronger in her presence, and more consistent in how she allows people to interact with her. You can feel it instantly when someone stops apologizing unnecessarily. The energy around them shifts. People start listening differently, treating them differently, and even thinking differently about what a woman can do when she refuses to minimize herself. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And this isn't just professional, it's personal too. When a Sigma female stops apologizing for her needs, for her boundaries, for her successes, and for simply being herself, her relationships shift too. She attracts people who are aligned, not people who drain her. She fosters connections that feel real, not performative. She doesn't lose kindness. She doesn't lose warmth. She gains clarity. She gains control. She gains a version of herself that feels unshakable because it's rooted in truth, not fear. And that truth radiates everywhere. So look at this. When you cut the extra apologies, you don't become harsh or bitter. You become honest. You become aligned with who you are. You communicate with integrity. You show up as someone who takes herself seriously because she respects herself enough to set limits, speak confidently, and hold space for her own growth. And confidence finally feels natural, not forced, not performative, not a mask you wear to survive. It feels like breathing, effortless and grounded, because it comes from the inside, not from trying to please others. So tell me, what's one thing you stopped apologizing for in your own life? Drop it in the comments below. Someone out there needs your courage, your example, and your perspective today. Sharing it matters more than you think. And if you want to go even deeper into that Sigma level self-worth, check out the next video I've got lined up for you. It'll help you keep building that quiet, steady confidence you already carry and strengthen the kind of presence that makes people take notice without you ever having to over-explain. You got this. Always.